Hey man, the moment you stop chasing her energy, stop over-explaining, stop trying to fix every emotional spark she throws into the air, something shifts inside her that she didn't expect. At first she thinks your silence means nothing. She tells herself you're just busy, distracted, or in your own world. She pretends she doesn't care. She tries to act unbothered. She tries to convince herself that your presence wasn't affecting her as much as she thought. But beneath that surface-level confidence, something deep and unsettling begins to form. Because women are not afraid of your anger, they're afraid of your absence. They can handle confrontation, arguments, tension, but they don't know how to deal with a man who simply stops reacting. A man who pulls back and gives her space without needing closure, validation, or reassurance becomes a mirror she never wanted to look into. That silence hits places inside her emotions you didn't even know existed. At first, she tells herself your distance is temporary. She thinks you'll come back the moment she posts a picture, the moment she becomes cold, the moment she shows you a little attitude. But when none of it works, that's when the panic begins. Quietly, slowly, invisibly. She starts replaying old conversations. She starts wondering if she said something wrong. She starts checking your messages to see if you've been active. She won't admit it, but a woman's biggest fear is not that you're angry, it's that you've become indifferent. Because anger still means you care. Arguments still mean you're invested. But silence means something inside you has shifted. Silence means the emotional grip she once had on you has loosened. And she starts realizing that maybe, just maybe, she pushed a man who actually cared into a place where caring became exhausting. Here's the truth. She'll never say out loud. When you go silent, she realizes how loud your presence actually was. She starts noticing the habits you brought into her life, the way you checked on her, the way you made her laugh, the stability you offered, the attention she once took for granted. She suddenly feels the absence of something she pretended she didn't need. And the crazy part, she won't feel it all at once. It comes in waves, at night, when things get quiet, in the morning, when she doesn't wake up to your messages, in random moments when she sees something that reminds her of you. Silence doesn't hit her like an explosion. It hits like a slow burn, spreading deeper every day. And with every hour that passes, she begins to understand that your attention was not just affection, it was security. When you give her space, she will try to fill that emotional gap with noise, scrolling endlessly, talking to friends, posting stories, distracting herself with anything she can find. But distraction doesn't fix anxiety. It only hides it temporarily. And the silence you create forces her to confront the one thing she's been avoiding her entire life: accountability. Suddenly, the things she said in the past, the way she acted, the way she took you for granted, they start echoing back at her. Because women don't reflect when you're available, they reflect when you're gone. When your energy is no longer holding the relationship together, she's left facing her own behavior without the comfort of your approval. And trust me, that discomfort shakes her more than any argument ever could. Then comes the confusion. She starts wondering why you're so calm, why you aren't arguing back, why you didn't try harder, why you're not chasing her the way she expected. And that confusion grows into fear. Not fear of losing you, but fear of losing the emotional control she thought she had. Because women test men constantly, not to hurt them, but to feel the strength of their emotional foundation. But when you stop reacting, you stop playing the game. And when the game ends, she suddenly loses the power she built her identity around. Your silence breaks her pattern. Your distance disrupts her rhythm, and she starts questioning her own worth, her own influence, her own impact on the relationship. For the first time, the story isn't centered around her emotions anymore. It's centered around your withdrawal, and that shift is terrifying for her. Here's something men never realize. When you give a woman space, she starts listening to her own feelings more than anything you say. And what she hears is brutal. She feels abandoned even if you didn't leave. She feels unwanted even if you still care. She feels replaced even if you haven't moved on. Because silence forces her to create her own narrative, and that narrative is always shaped by her insecurities. She starts thinking you found someone else. She starts assuming she wasn't enough. She starts fearing she pushed you too far. And what's worse, she won't say any of this. She'll act strong, cold, independent. But deep down, she's spiraling in uncertainty, because your silence leaves a vacuum that her mind fills with the worst-case scenarios. When you go silent, she also starts comparing you to every man she's ever dealt with. The ones who were thirsty, the ones who chased endlessly, the ones who begged for attention, the ones who tolerated disrespect. And suddenly, you're different. You're unpredictable. You're not giving her the validation she's used to getting without effort, and that forces her to reevaluate everything she thought she understood about you. A silent man is dangerous, not because he's doing something wrong, but because he's gaining emotional control. In her mind, silence means strength, distance means confidence, detachment means power, and she starts realizing that you're operating from a mindset she can't manipulate. That scares her, and that fear turns into curiosity, and that curiosity becomes longing. The longer you remain calm, collected, and emotionally detached, the more she feels the shift. She starts questioning her own decisions. She starts thinking about the moments where she pushed you away, expecting you to fight for her. She didn't expect you to actually stop fighting. Women rarely imagine the full consequences of their actions until they see them reflected in a man's silence. And when that silence stays consistent, when you don't fold, when you don't reach out, when you don't crumble, she begins to realize something she never wanted to admit. You were the stable one, you were the grounded one, you were the one offering emotional leadership, and she let her emotions sabotage the one thing that gave her security. And here's the wildest part, your silence doesn't just make her miss you, it makes her question herself. She begins seeing her mistakes with clarity. She begins understanding how her attitude, her tests, her emotional swings pushed you away. She begins recognizing how much work you were doing to hold the relationship together. For the first time, the mirror she avoided is right in front of her, and she doesn't like what she sees, but she needed that silence to see it. Because when you were present, she was comfortable. When you were trying, she was blind. When you were giving, she was ungrateful. But silence removes the comfort, removes the entitlement, removes the illusion of control. And suddenly, she sees the truth she avoided for months. By the time the silence sinks in, her emotions shift from curiosity to anxiety to regret. She remembers the way you cared, the way you showed up, the way you supported her, the way you tried, even when she pushed you away. And regret is a powerful emotion for women because it doesn't fade easily. It lingers, it grows, it whispers at night. And the worst part for her is realizing that the man she thought she had wrapped around her emotions is now the man she can no longer reach. Your silence becomes a wall she can't climb. And for the first time, she realizes she might have lost something real, not because of betrayal, but because she underestimated a man who finally chose himself over the chaos she brought into his life. As the silence deepens, something else begins to shift inside her. The certainty she once felt starts to crumble. You have to understand this, brother. Women build emotional stories in their heads. They predict your reactions. They assume they know how you'll respond. They think they can anticipate your next move. But when you go quiet, when you don't react the way she expected, that entire mental script she relied on suddenly collapses. And this collapse terrifies her more than the distance itself. Because if she can't predict you anymore, she can't control the emotional direction of the connection. And if she can't control the emotional direction, her mind starts imagining every possibility, every mistake, every consequence she refused to consider when you were giving her everything. Your silence becomes the unknown, and the unknown is where her fears thrive. She starts checking her phone more often, not because she wants to text you, but because she wants to see something, a notification, a sign, a hint that you're still orbiting her world. When she doesn't find it, her mind spirals deeper into what-ifs. She replays the last conversations. She reinterprets the last moments you shared. She analyzes your tone, your words, your body language, all in search of meaning she overlooked earlier, and the irony is painful. When you were available, she ignored the meaning behind your efforts. Now that you're distant, she tries to read meaning into silence. She begins to feel the weight of something she never valued enough, the emotional security you once provided. Then comes the quiet comparison phase. She starts comparing you to every guy she knows, exes, men who wanted her, guys in her DMs, boys who chased her in the past, and none of them match your silence, because most men react, most men complain, most men beg, most men chase, but you disappeared into your own world with calmness. That calmness eats her alive. Why? Because it signals huge emotional strength. A man who can detach without anger is a man who is operating from power, and the moment she senses that power, she realizes something she'd been blind to before. You weren't the one who needed her. She was the one who depended on your presence far more than she admitted. This is when she starts reaching out indirectly, posting more, dressing differently, acting happier than she actually is, laughing extra loud on social media, making herself look unbothered, not because she's truly moving on, but because she wants to provoke a reaction out of you. She wants to see if you're watching. She wants proof that she still has influence over your emotions. But when her efforts get no response, no likes, no views from your account, no curiosity, her confidence begins to crack. She didn't expect your silence to be this steady, this unshakable. And now, instead of controlling the situation with emotional games, she finds herself being controlled by the emptiness you left behind. When your silence continues, she starts thinking about the deeper implications. She realizes something she never thought she would. She may have pushed away a man who was actually good for her, not perfect, but real. She remembers the moments where you showed patience, where you tried to calm her storms, where you tolerated her tests, where you held the connection together, even when she made it difficult. And suddenly, all those moments she downplayed now hit her with full force, because women often don't recognize effort until the effort is no longer being made. And now that you've stepped back, she's forced to confront what she lost. Not in theory, but in reality. What's even more powerful is the way your silence exposes the truth about her emotional maturity. If she was playing games, your distance destroys her strategy. If she was testing you, your calmness breaks the test. If she wanted attention, your absence shows her the consequences of seeking validation elsewhere. If she was emotionally manipulating you, your detachment exposes how helpless she is without your emotional cooperation. Your silence reveals her true intentions, and most women aren't ready to face that. She realizes your presence was the structure keeping everything from falling apart. Without you, her emotional behavior no longer has a target, and that emptiness feels like a collapse inside her mind. One of the most devastating things for her ego is the realization that your silence is not accidental, it's intentional. She senses it. She feels the shift. She knows when a man is wounded and reactive, and she knows when a man is calm and detached. Your silence is not the silence of a man who is confused. It's the silence of a man who has found clarity. And clarity in a man is the one thing a woman cannot manipulate. When she realizes you're no longer emotionally available for her, she panics. Not out of love necessarily, but out of fear that she may have underestimated the depth of your strength. Suddenly, she realizes she wasn't in control at all. She was being tolerated, and now the tolerance is gone. This is when the regret begins, taking a more painful form. She starts imagining what you might be doing. She wonders if you're happier without her. She wonders if you found someone who appreciates you more. She wonders if you're finally giving your energy to someone who recognizes your value. These thoughts torture her because they expose the truth she never wanted to accept. You were not replaceable. She just convinced herself you were, because she was used to men who folded, chased, or begged. But you didn't fold, you didn't chase, you didn't beg, and that difference becomes the emotional wound she cannot escape from. After enough silence, something even deeper happens. She begins to introspect, and women rarely introspect unless forced. She starts questioning her behavior. She reflects on her attitude, her emotional swings, her unnecessary arguments, the times she disrespected your effort. She wonders if she pushed too far. She wonders if she ruined something good. And in this introspection, she faces a truth that men learn early, but women avoid. Love isn't about emotions, it's about endurance. She had emotions, you had endurance, and now she sees the consequences of relying on feelings instead of stability. It hits her hard, because for the first time she realizes she might have misjudged the one man who truly cared. And here is the final truth of this stage. When you give her space and go silent, you don't just create distance, you create revelation. You expose her ego. And most importantly, you expose the truth behind her actions. Actions that made perfect sense in her emotional world, but fall apart in the presence of your calm indifference. Your silence becomes the teacher she didn't know she needed, and the lesson she learns is simple, painful, and unforgettable. A man's presence is comforting, but his absence is transformative. As the silence stretches, her mind moves from regret into something far more consuming, uncertainty. And uncertainty is the one emotional state that destabilizes her more than anything else. She doesn't know where she stands with you. She doesn't know what you're thinking. She doesn't know if you've accepted her absence or if you've outgrown the need for her altogether. That uncertainty becomes a quiet storm in her mind. She starts imagining scenarios, questioning every small moment between you, wondering what mattered and what didn't. She begins to realize that your silence isn't punishment, it's a boundary, and boundaries for a woman who relied on emotional influence feel like the ground beneath her shifting. Suddenly, she's no longer in control of the emotional narrative, And that lack of control doesn't just bother her, it unravels her. She begins noticing the small things first, the lack of your attention, the stillness of your energy, the absence of your presence that she once dismissed. She starts remembering moments where you reached out first, moments where you stayed up to comfort her, moments where you checked in, even when you were tired. She remembers how effortless it felt to receive you, and now, every bit of that effort has suddenly vanished, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier than any argument you two ever had. She starts to understand that the connection she thought was guaranteed was actually held together by your consistency. Without it, everything feels fragile, and in that fragility, she faces the truth she didn't want to see. She relied on you emotionally more than she realized. This is where frustration begins to brew inside her. Not anger at you, anger at the situation. She doesn't know whether to reach out or wait. She doesn't know if breaking the silence will look desperate or honest. She doesn't know if contacting you will fix the tension or make things worse. She doesn't know if you even care anymore. And that indecision becomes suffocating. Women crave emotional certainty. They need reassurance to anchor their thoughts. But your silence removes that anchor entirely. Suddenly, she's drifting, not because you pushed her away, but because she no longer feels your presence guiding the connection forward. And the more she feels that drift, the more she fears what it means. Soon, she starts imagining the life you might be living without her. Not just the surface level things, but the deeper emotional shifts. She wonders if you feel lighter without her emotional weight. She wonders if your days are more peaceful without her sudden moods. She wonders if you found comfort in solitude. She wonders if someone else is offering you the appreciation she withheld. And perhaps the most painful thought for her is the possibility that you might have finally realized your own worth. Because if you've reached that point, she knows there's nothing she can do to pull you back into the version of yourself that tolerated her unpredictability. Then comes the emotional flip, the phase where she begins to idealize you. She remembers the good moments vividly, the way you listened carefully, the way you were patient with her storms, the way you brought calmness into her life when she didn't even understand her own emotions. She romanticizes your presence because she finally sees how rare it was. Not many men hold steady when a woman wavers. Not many men stay calm when she spirals. Not many men give affection without expecting a performance in return. Now that she's no longer receiving those things, the contrast becomes overwhelming, and the very traits she once overlooked now feel irreplaceable. This idealization leads to a powerful shift in her emotions. She starts questioning whether she misjudged you entirely. She wonders if she confused your consistency for predictability, if she mistook your patience for weakness, if she assumed you'd always be there because you never walked away. And when those thoughts settle in, she realizes something painful. She may have been the one who didn't appreciate the value she had, not because she didn't feel anything, but because she never imagined you'd actually step back. And now the silence isn't just silence, it's proof that you reached your limit. As these realizations sink in, she becomes more sensitive to reminders of you. A song, a phrase, a place, a smell, a memory, things she didn't think twice about when you were present, now feel like emotional triggers. She realizes that losing someone doesn't always happen through a breakup. Sometimes it happens through emotional distance, and your distance forces her to relive the moments that mattered. She remembers your laughter, your presence, your warmth, your guidance. All the things she dismissed in moments of irritation now come back to her with clarity. She begins to understand that connection isn't measured in passion alone, it's measured in consistency, and that consistency came from you. Eventually, she reaches the emotional point she never expected: fear. Fear that you won't return to the version of you she once knew. Fear that your silence has become your new normal. Fear that you've started healing without her. Fear that she's now the chapter you're closing, not the one you're waiting to reopen. Women don't fear losing a man, they fear losing a man they didn't think they needed to protect. And your silence shows her how wrong she was to assume you'd always be available. If the silence continues long enough, she begins to accept a truth she fought internally. She wasn't as secure in your connection as she pretended to be. Her confidence cracks, her emotional defenses weaken, and beneath all the pride, attitude, and independence she projected, she starts realizing she actually cared much more than she ever revealed. She begins to understand that the emotional support you provided was not replaceable, and now she wonders if she still has a place in your life or if her role has been permanently demoted to a memory. This is when longing begins. Not desire, not curiosity, not ego, but pure longing. The kind that sits in her chest when she's alone. The kind that makes her scroll through old messages. The kind that makes her stare at her screen, hoping for something from you. The kind that makes her feel the difference between the men she entertained and the man she actually connected with. And what overwhelms her is knowing that longing was triggered not by arguments, not by drama, not by anger, but by silence. Your silence becomes the emotional wake-up call she never wanted to receive, and now she feels the gravity of it in every corner of her thoughts. As more time passes, her longing doesn't fade, it intensifies. Not because she suddenly fell deeper in love, but because silence forces her to confront the emotions she avoided when you were present. She starts realizing that she wasn't the one in control like she once believed. You weren't orbiting her, she was orbiting the attention you gave her. And now that your energy has withdrawn, her world feels slightly off-center. She goes about her day normally, but every quiet moment reminds her of your absence. Every time she sits alone, she feels the emptiness that used to be filled by your consistency. She begins to understand that attention isn't the same as affection, and affection isn't the same as presence. What she misses is not your messages, not your compliments, not the routine. She misses you, the calm, the certainty, the emotional grounding you brought without ever demanding anything in return. This is when her mind starts rewriting the past, not to justify her behavior, but because she's trying to understand what she didn't appreciate when she had it. She remembers moments where you were patient when she wasn't. She recalls times when you tried to communicate while she shut down. She thinks about how often you carried the emotional weight while she acted like it wasn't heavy, and she begins to see the relationship in a way she never did before, from your perspective. That shift is painful for her, because it exposes all the ways she misread your intentions. She realizes your patience wasn't weakness, your silence wasn't apathy, your consistency wasn't desperation. You were simply giving more than she was ready to value. And now that the connection depends on her, she finally understands how hard it is to hold something together alone. Her pride begins to crack around this time. She starts thinking about reaching out, typing messages, and deleting them, wondering if contacting you would make her look emotional or weak. She imagines what she would even say. "I miss you" feels too vulnerable. "Are you okay?" feels too obvious. "Just checking on you" feels too transparent. Every message she drafts sounds like an admission that she misjudged your silence, and pride doesn't allow her to admit that easily. So she hesitates, she waits, she overthinks, but the silence keeps working on her, carving out pieces of her confidence. She starts to feel the weight of the distance and realizes that even making the first move wouldn't be enough to undo the emotional shift inside you. She senses you are no longer where she left you. The deeper she falls into that uncertainty, the more her mind magnifies the possibility of you moving on. She imagines you smiling without her. She imagines you being calmer, happier, lighter. She imagines you growing emotionally in ways she never nurtured. And the hardest image for her to process is another woman benefiting from the emotional strength she once took for granted. It's not jealousy, it's realization. Realization that she may have been careless with a man who was building something real. Realization that you weren't replaceable. Realization that you weren't performing for validation. You were giving out of genuine care. And the idea of losing someone who was intentional hits her differently. It hits her in the place she thought was untouchable, her ego. At this stage, she starts questioning her own behavior, deeply, genuinely, for the first time. She wonders if she pushed too hard, expected too much, misinterpreted your intentions, or let her emotions dictate every disagreement. She plays back memories with new eyes, seeing how often you stayed calm while she reacted impulsively. She sees how often you tried to communicate while she shut down, and it dawns on her that maybe the silence she's experiencing is not a punishment, it's a consequence. A consequence of treating your presence casually, a consequence of assuming your effort was infinite. She never imagined that you would simply stop participating in the emotional chaos. And now, faced with the quiet, she realizes you were the stability she thought she didn't need. What really shakes her is recognizing that she wasn't prepared for a man who doesn't beg. Most men she's known responded to distance with panic. They chased harder, they argued, they tried to fix things instantly. But you chose silence, you chose space, you chose yourself. And that choice tells her everything she never wanted to confront. You have self-respect, you have boundaries, you have emotional discipline. You're not the type of man who loses himself trying to keep someone else happy. And that level of control is rare. Not because men lack it, but because most men are too afraid of losing a woman to show it. Your silence displays a level of strength she wasn't prepared to deal with, and now she's left trying to figure out how to re-enter your life without looking like she miscalculated. She starts observing your behavior quietly, from the shadows. She checks whether you watch her stories. She checks if your online times align with hers. She checks if you've been active at hours you never were before. These small things become data points for her, clues into whether your silence is emotional or strategic. And when she sees that nothing changes, that you're still calm, still distant, still composed, she realizes you aren't performing. This isn't a game for you. This isn't manipulation. This is you reclaiming your peace. And that authenticity scares her far more than any emotional tactic you could have used. Because she realizes that once a man finds peace in silence, he becomes much harder to pull back into chaos. Around this time, she experiences her deepest emotional shift, a mix of regret and appreciation. Regret for not valuing you earlier, and appreciation for the emotional consistency you once offered. She sees the contrast between how you treated her and how the world treats her. She remembers how easy it was to be herself with you, even when she made everything difficult. Women remember men by how they made them feel, and now she feels the absence of your grounding presence in every aspect of her life. She realizes that you are not just another connection, you were the connection that made her feel safe in ways she couldn't describe, and losing that safety feels like losing a part of herself she didn't realize you occupied. This realization makes her reconsider reaching out, not from arrogance but from vulnerability. She considers sending a simple message. She considers asking how you are. She considers opening the door to communication. But she hesitates because she fears one thing above all, that you won't respond the way you used to, that you won't sound warm, that you won't sound invested, that you won't make it easy for her to slip back into your life without acknowledging the distance she created. And that fear is powerful because for the first time she understands you may have emotionally detached in a way she cannot undo with charm or nostalgia. And here's the irony she never expected. She used to fear losing the relationship, but now she fears losing you as a man, the version of you who cared, who tried, who showed up, who believed in the connection even when she didn't. She fears that the silence has changed you in ways she didn't anticipate. She fears you've outgrown the person she was with. She fears you've realized your own worth. And the moment a woman fears a man's emotional evolution is the moment she understands the truth she avoided for months. Silence isn't distance. Silence is transformation. As the silence continues, she begins to feel something she hasn't felt in a long time: vulnerability without control. This is the feeling she avoids at all costs, the state she suppresses with distractions, validation, and emotional noise. But when you step back, when you pull your energy away, when you stop being the emotional cushion she always relied on, she is left alone with her rawest thoughts, and those thoughts are not kind. They remind her of the things she said impulsively, the times she dismissed your effort, the way she treated your love like something she could replace easily. She begins to realize that maybe she wasn't as secure as she thought. She was simply comforted by the idea that you would always be there, and now that this illusion has been shattered, she feels the weight of her choices pressing down on her in ways she cannot escape. This is where her emotional strength begins to fracture. She starts feeling abandoned. Even though you didn't abandon her, you simply stopped pouring into a connection that wasn't being respected. But her mind interprets your silence as loss. She feels disconnected, unsure, exposed. She starts thinking about the things she never told you, the insecurities she hid behind attitude, the fears she masked with pride, the wounds she covered with emotional chaos. And slowly she realizes that the reason she reacted so intensely in the past wasn't because you were wrong, but because she was afraid. Afraid of being hurt, afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of depending on a man who actually cared. Your silence brings those fears to the surface, and she doesn't know how to sit with them. She thinks about how she treated you, not the dramatic moments, the small ones, the times she ignored your messages while expecting instant replies from you, the times she dismissed your attempts to communicate, the times she pushed you away, assuming you'd always return, the times she used attitude as a shield instead of admitting she cared. Looking back, she begins to see how careless she was with your effort, and the silent truth becomes impossible to ignore. You cared more than she was capable of acknowledging at the time. That realization hits her harder than any argument ever could, because now she sees your actions clearly, without the fog of pride or emotion distorting them. Gradually, she begins to notice how different life feels without your presence anchoring it. You weren't loud, You weren't dramatic, you weren't overpowering, but you were stable. You were the quiet comfort she didn't realize she relied on. You brought a sense of direction to her chaotic emotional world. Even when she pushed you, even when she tested you, even when she acted indifferent, your consistency made her feel secure in ways she didn't understand until it was gone. She begins to realize that the calm she felt around you wasn't accidental. It was the reflection of your emotional discipline. And once a woman experiences a man with discipline, every other connection feels uncertain, flimsy, temporary. She starts imagining what she would say if she had the chance to talk to you again. She thinks about apologizing, something that is almost impossible for her to do genuinely. She thinks about admitting she mishandled things, that she misread your silence, that she overreacted to your calm. She imagines telling you she didn't mean to push you away, but then her pride pulls her back. She fears your response. She fears sounding emotional. She fears being rejected. And for the first time, she experiences the pressure men feel regularly, the anxiety of not knowing whether the other person still wants you. That fear is unfamiliar to her, and it shakes her confidence in ways she didn't expect. As the emotional pressure builds, she begins to regret the way she ended things, not necessarily the ending itself, but the manner in which she handled the connection. She regrets the arrogance she had when she assumed she could replace you easily. She regrets the emotional game she played, the tests she ran, the indifference she used to protect herself. She regrets not communicating with honesty. She regrets letting her impulsive emotions dictate her decisions, and the deeper that regret becomes, the more clearly she sees what she lost. A man who actually cared, a man who didn't give up, a man who didn't walk away easily. That kind of man is rare, and now she knows it. Eventually, she reaches the moment where silence becomes unbearable. She tries to distract herself, but the distraction no longer works. She tries to convince herself she doesn't care, but the lie feels weaker each day. She tries to fill the void with attention from others, but it feels empty. She tries to act strong, but the strength feels forced. She starts confronting the reality she avoided. She didn't expect you to detach. She didn't expect you to choose peace. She didn't expect you to walk away from the emotional roller coaster. And the worst part for her is realizing that your transformation didn't require her involvement, it required her absence. What haunts her the most is sensing that your silence didn't break you, it matured you. You're calmer now, more grounded, more focused, more self-respecting. You don't look like a man who's hurting, you look like a man who reclaimed his power. And that transformation creates a pressure inside her she can't describe. She wanted you to miss her. She didn't expect you to grow without her. She wanted you to chase. She didn't expect you to heal. She wanted you to fight for her. She didn't expect you to walk away with dignity. And dignity, brother, is the one trait women never forget. It becomes the standard against which they measure every other man. By this point, she has only two choices: reach out or lose you forever. And even if she contacts you, she knows deep down that the dynamic has changed. She senses you're no longer the man who tolerated emotional chaos. You're no longer the man who needed reassurance. You're no longer the man who would bend to keep the peace. She realizes that if she wants a place in your life again, she must show effort, real effort, not emotional impulse. Effort that requires humility. Effort that requires accountability. Effort that requires maturity. And that scares her because she has never had to approach a man from vulnerability before. And here is the truth she learns too late. Silence didn't create distance, it revealed it. Distance didn't make her lose you, it showed her she never truly had you the way she thought. Your silence was not the absence of emotion, it was the presence of self-respect. And when a man reaches that level of clarity, nothing a woman does can pull him back into who he used to be. She wanted your attention. She didn't expect you to find your value. She wanted a reaction. She didn't expect evolution. And now she understands the one truth that will stay with her long after the silence fades. She didn't lose you because you stopped caring. She lost you because you finally cared about yourself.